All right, so I saw your video on your reply to God doesn't exist, and I'm just going to argue some of the points that you try to point out in the video that you just recorded. So the first thing I want to argue is your idea of miracles and something you can't that's something that you're trying to prove or fight for that you can't explain. Okay, one, that doesn't make any sense. Why would you try to fight for something that you can't explain? That's like it's like me saying we were created 5 seconds ago with the memory we have all in our head, but you can't argue against that. How is your argument correct over mine? So a miracle is something that's happened, but you can't explain it. That doesn't make any logical sense. The world revolves around being logical. This world, everything about this world is logical. And like in the video, if something exists, it's because of energy or matter, or both of them combined, whichever. And if God exists and it's made of one of those substances, and if it's made of one of those substances, then it can't defy the laws of nature. There's no all natural being. And if what you're saying is true about God, then He created the earth in a certain amount of days, or something of that liking, and that's impossible because no human can go outside and make a planet and just do whatever he wants with it because he can or he wants to. That's not logical thinking. Um, Second off, about you arguing against energy and matter and all that, that doesn't make any sense. Why would you try to argue for God, um, and you're arguing against something that's logical? Why would you argue against something that's logical? It doesn't make any sense. It really doesn't. How is that even a plausible argument? Trying to argue against something that you can't even remotely or minutely prove to be even close to being true. There's no idea of someone being able to say, um yeah, there's a God, but I can't explain it. And people start believing that. All religion is a way for people to explain something that no one else can explain. That's all it is. So Christianity or Buddhism or Hinduism or any religion is just a way for people to not be scared of the reality of what happened, of how the universe was really created, how the Big Bang was really the way we all got here, how there wasn't some guy named God who created this earth in a matter of days. That doesn't make any sense. It's childish thinking. It's foolish thinking. Why would I want to think of something, or why would I want to argue something that a 4-year old could argue? Why? What that does that even make any sense? You're an adult now. Shouldn't you be thinking a little more clear? Don't you think you should be thinking outside of the box and not what hundreds of millions of other people believe in this world? Just because some guy at a church told you to believe in something called God doesn't mean you need to believe in it. I mean, I understand if you're raised in a very Christian household and all that. Just it's nonsense. And another thing I want to point out is how you said that if your parents hadn't met and hadn't procreated you, you wouldn't be here. That is true. And why did that happen? Because of science. The chemicals in their brains, they met each other, and they the chemicals in their brains, they sparked. Scientifically, nothing having to do with an outside being, nothing of that matter, and they had sex, and scientifically you were born with science, nothing having to do with religion or God or anything. And he didn't choose whether you were born or not. That was science, and no outside being had any say so on whether you were going to be born or not. That has nothing to do with it. There's nothing that God, if there were a God, why would he care if one person, how would he have the time to focus on one person being born? Obviously, it's a lie. Obviously, it's something that someone came up with a long time ago to come, because no one else had an idea of how we got here. That's all it is. And so you thinking that you're the reason, or you thinking that God would be the reason that you were born is just complete nonsense. And I hope you take some of my ideas into consideration to really think about the truth behind everything, and not how there's some God, some God, and he's the reason we're all here, and how there's some divine power. That's just, it's ridiculous. So I just want you to think about some of the ideas and think about how you're arguing against something that's logical, something that really honestly makes sense. That's that's all I'm arguing. All I'm arguing is something that I can prove. You're arguing something that you can't prove, which is nonsensical if you think about it. So just think about what I told you, and then maybe you'll have an argument if you argue my way, not God's way, or something like that. So I hope you watch this video, and thanks if you do.